From the Aishin Broadcast Studio, it's Power Players, brought to you by DX1.
MPN's Power Player is sponsored by DX1. Connect every part of your dealership with DX1's cloud-based, all-in-one solution, offering a certified DMS, lead manager, website, marketing tools, and more. All built into one smart, seamless solution. Visit dx1app.com for more information.
Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Greg Jones from Motorcycle and Powersports News, and welcome to another episode of Power Player. Today, my guest is Zach Materne. He's a commercial property and casualty risk consultant with Apiar. Zach, pleasure to have you in the studio. Good to see you again.
Greg, good to see you as well.
Yeah. Now, last time we saw each other was AIMExpo just a few months ago. You were there at the show and you participated on a panel or two with me. So again, I want to thank you for doing that, and hope you had a good show over there at AIM.
Yeah, it was a great show. We had a lot of great feedback from it. Actually, from those panels, I've started some conversations, and it's been really good. So
excellent.
The idea of kind of getting more dealers to think risk management and get ahead of their insurance issues is working now. So that's good.
Excellent. That's good to hear. And we're going to dive into a whole bunch of that type of conversation. But I wanted to start just a little bit with your background for folks that might not know you. You were a dealer yourself not too long ago. You're down in the New Orleans area.
Right.
You want to just talk a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, we had a store in New Orleans called TTR&O. We were a BMW, Triumph, Ducati, Vespa store. We actually started as a Vespa store and worked our way up to BMW over the course of 17 years. It was kind of I call it my MBA. I mean, it was my parents and my brother and I. Brother and I are still in the industry. He works he's a consultant with Garage Composites, and he's working on a technology product now. And then I'm on the insurance risk management side of the business. So kind of using our experience in the business and just like experience from 20 clubs and understanding how dealers think, trying to solve problems outside of the normal operations of the dealership every day.
Right. Yeah. Certainly.
Yeah.
And so, Zach, go into a little more detail in terms of your path from the dealership to where you are now. What kind of made you make that switch?
Well, we sold the store, and I had to figure out what I wanted to do when I grew up.
So you didn't really have a choice to some degree.
I ended up having a former client, the guy that I raced motorcycles with, say, hey, you ever considered insurance? And I was kind of like, I don't know if this is really for me. Yeah. He's like, look, it's middle market. You're working with CFOs. It's a lot of fun. So I ended up, I joined a large firm, had very early success. And as I was kind of peeling back the layers, I was thinking, well, how can I apply this to my old industry? Because I just felt like every time we had a claim as a dealer, we never had the coverage we needed for it. There was never an expert to have the conversation with. So over the next few years, I started really going after some of the larger powersport groups in the U.S. and put together a plan for the company I was at and said, hey, I really wanted to go after this. And they said, that's really not in our wheelhouse. Mm-hmm. So last summer, I joined Apiar, and we've created a specific program to market to powersport dealers and kind of become the expert in that space. Yeah. So it's been really fun. The journey to kind of like new industry, figuring out how to attach it to my old industry, right, and then become relevant. So that's really been the work over the last 5 years.
Very cool.
Yeah.
DX1 is the only all-in-one dealership management solution for the motorcycle and powersports industry. The perfect combination of a DMS, website, and suite of marketing tools that encourages dealers to invest in their customers and not into separate software to run their dealership. All of the components of DX1 work seamlessly together to increase their staff's efficiency while allowing dealers to be with their customers rather than behind a computer screen duplicating data entry. OEM integrations, automated scheduling, and smart customer notifications combine with the real-time flow of data throughout the dealership to simplify tasks and improve day-to-day operations, all within one system and one login. This secure, cloud-based solution is accessible everywhere and has proven to be a crucial asset in the success of many powersports dealerships today. Contact DX1 now and see why others are switching to the only all-in-one powersports dealership management solution. DX1.
Now, I heard you briefly mention motorcycle racing, so you're not a risk-averse guy.
No, it's risk management.
Right. There you go. Now, do you still race a little bit?
I haven't raced in a while. My brother and I raced in the Thruxton Cup Series for Triumph for a couple years in the middle teens there.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
With customers, and it was it's a spec class, so it was more about the fun we had in the paddock than it was even on the racetrack sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, very cool. So Zach, if you could, can you dive into that? Explain the relationship between a dealer and their insurance broker.
Well, I think it really begins with understanding that your insurance, your risk management strategy is not a commodity buy of insurance. When you're going to buy car insurance, you go on Geico.com and you compare it to Progressive.com and you buy the cheapest price.
Right.
Once you get to a certain level of revenue in a company, and maybe you own your building, and it's becoming more complex, you've really got to look at it strategically, because there's so many variables that can change what your coverage is. And so really, I always start with understanding what the client needs as far as coverage, and then backing into what the premium would be. With that being said, you should always look at multiple options, but multiple options within the market, and I'll get to that in a second. But it's not this just, oh, this is cheaper than this, let's buy that. It's really understanding what
it's doing for
what
you.
are the exposure in your business, right? Exposures within your business. On top of that, there are the way the market works. There are a couple direct writers in the market. That's like a Federated or a Zurich.
Sure. And
Century is still writing Harley-Davidson dealers. Then there's brokers like me that have access to a variety of markets, and the amount of markets that are available now continue to shrink. In the last 4 years, we've lost 4 markets. The largest being K&K in the last 2 months, and K&K was the constant in the industry for decades. That would write in every state and would write in every size dealership. They're gone now.
Yeah.
So it's even tighter. So when it comes to where do you buy insurance, I would say buying from a broker that understands the dealership space, whether it's car dealers or powersport dealers, understands the dealership space, because as an insurance broker, you don't have access to every single market that's out there. There are certain markets, especially in the dealership space, that require a special appointment, because you have to be an expert in the space to do that.
Right.
And so I've been able to, over the last 5 years, build up a nice arsenal of underwriters that write in this space, and I can speak to it. Some of this too, with less markets and more business coming in for these markets, it's also about the relationship you have with the underwriter and the story you tell to the underwriter.
Yeah.
Try and do as much of their work as possible to paint in the right picture. Make sure you're in front of them, because some of these, if there's no relationship, you'll submit an application 60 days before renewal, and it'll be 2 days before, and they haven't looked at it by that point, right?
Yeah.
So it's as a broker, we're your advocate. We're the advocate for the client in the marketplace to find the right place to go, and also to make sure that we can put it together by the relationship that we create with them.
Yeah.
And it may make sense if you're used to a Zurich or a Federated where everything's placed in the same with the same market. That's typically not how we do it on our end, because there could be one piece of business that's better here or one piece of business that's better there, and put together kind of a bespoke program.
Yeah. So it depends on what each dealer might need.
Yeah, and those variables change by size of dealer, how many employees you have, do you own your building, do you have multiple locations? All that stuff can change that.
Yeah.
And where are you located in the U.S.? I'm on the Gulf Coast.
Sure.
So it's impossible to get insurance down there.
Right, I've heard.
I mean, there's a Category 5 hurricane in the Gulf right now, West Coast, fire exposure. This part of the world here, in the Midwest, tornadoes. So every part of the country's got something that changes that. So if you've got, I have a client that's got 7 locations around the country. So there was one place where I could place all their garage liability, one underwriter that would do that. Because of what states they're located in.
Right.
Presented from the Aishin Broadcast Studio at Babcock's Media.
So Zach, you touched on a few different things here, and I want to just take a deeper dive. You made a comment that this insurance isn't a commodity. It's very different than how we might shop for our normal, Geicos and Nationwides and whatever else. So do you want to just explain that deeper, and then also, what really makes up that premium, and how does it differ dealer to dealer? What kind of factors go into that?
Yeah, so talking to premium, premium is based off of a couple different things. So if it's a casualty line, a general or a liability line, that's going to be based off of number of employees or your revenue or number of dealer plates, payroll.
Yeah.
Those are the exposures that they're going to rate that off of, and there's a rate that's based off of whatever that number is. On the property side, your rates are based off of whatever your exposure is. So if it's your inventory for your dealership, how much inventory do you carry? It's guided by the amount of coverage you need for your building. What's the total? What's the actual cash value to replace the building if it were to burn down?
Yeah.
So, and also making sure you're constantly looking at those limits as well, because what you don't want to do is have a catastrophic event. Let's say a fire and everything burns down, and you haven't adjusted your limits in years, and then you're stuck holding the bag because your building and maybe your inventory wasn't insured correctly.
Yeah.
So.
And I wanted to definitely dive deeper into that. In your few years doing this now, when you've gone into different dealerships around the country, what are some of those, I don't want to say things that they're doing wrong, but just maybe things that they're not fully aware of that, you come in and you can help them, correct or cover properly. In my
short time in my career in this space, the number one claim I've seen was not like smash and grabs, from people coming in. It's not completed operations where mechanics aren't putting tires on correctly. It's false pretense. And false pretense is someone that misrepresents themselves and comes in and buys a vehicle from you. And they typically, if they can get away with one, then they'll hit you multiple times. And you don't find out, because they typically finance, you don't find out until about 6 months later when the bank goes, hey, no one's ever paid on this.
Yeah.
And most states and most banks that finance through dealers are going to say, well, you're the agent for the bank, so you're responsible for that. And so that's specifically on the markets that were really power sport heavy and not auto heavy. Their limits were maybe $25,000. That may not even cover one claim for a big UTV or a big Harley or a big so it's really making sure that. And so there are there's risk management strategies where you can go in and get ID scanners that can that will tell you if the ID is real or not.
Okay.
And some which is also part of the compliance in the F&I office.
Right.
So there are some pieces of technology out there, and I think that within the next 5 years, it's probably going to become a barrier to entry to even have the coverage.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Now, Zach, you said it earlier in the conversation, but I want to come back to it because some of the stuff you just mentioned, really plays into understanding the power sports market, right? And having underwriters that kind of know what's going on. It's not just your normal insurance with everything. There's obviously some things that differ. So how important is it that the underwriters kind of know the space and know what dealers are having to go through?
My success in the insurance world as a broker has been making sure that I have a great relationship with the underwriters and we're telling the story correctly. And I think that we've had success because we get ahead of it. We tell the story from the beginning, and we're able to get back quickly with that. And that's first of all, having a great relationship with the client. Right. And so much of this really, the conversation, the success starts with the client's relationship with the broker, and then on top of that, it's then giving us everything we need to be successful. Yeah. I'll have. When I start a relationship with a dealer, I'll have them send me policies and they've blacked out the premium. I'm like, well, that's like playing a game without the score. Like, I want to make sure you can beat it. I'm like, well, that's not how this works. Like, I've got to know. Every underwriter's going to ask me what you're currently paying, because they may go, I can't come anywhere near that. Right. Or, oh, I think we can be more competitive than that. So, and one other thing too is that when you're shopping insurance, what you don't want to do is to put more than one broker into the marketplace, because two brokers cannot approach the same market. So if you go into the market and block it all, which is what should happen with one person, then they can put in, if they're good, they can put together the best bespoke product. Yeah. Whereas if you're in there with two other people and you're trying to maybe one piece of what you've got's the best, and another piece of what guy number two, and another piece of what guy number three, then you're not doing yourself any favors, especially when the market's as tight as it is right now.
Yeah.
Where there really aren't a whole lot of places to go.
Yeah.
So that's always the beginning of the conversation I have with clients is, have you already engaged someone?
Yeah. And I wanted to go there next. You just touched on how the market's kind of shrinking there for places people can go for this insurance coverage. Can you speak to kind of why that's been happening and how that's impacting dealers who are looking for coverage?
Yeah, it's already kind of a niche. The dealership space is already a niche, and typically what will happen, Zurich was kind of Zurich invented this industry, and so there's been a lot of employees that have left Zurich, and then they start their own program, and then at some point the reinsurance catches up with them after some claims, and it collapses. And so you've always got to kind of be 2 steps ahead. The scary part right now is that we've had so many collapses in the last couple of years. There's like really a handful of places that are kind of universal, outside of really regional carriers. So that to me is a little bit unnerving. As a professional, what I'm doing, not only am I working with clients, making sure we're marketing to new clients, but the other side of that is making sure that we're constantly having communications and conversations with markets to say, hey, have you ever considered this? Or, hey, you're only playing in the car space. Have you considered coming over to Powersports? It's a different risk. The inventory is stored inside. The clients know their customers a little better than the car dealers do. So that there's the risk profile is a little bit lower. Now the premium is also significantly less too.
Sure.
So, but being able to kind of consistently have my pulse on where things are headed in the next 12 to 24 months.
Yeah, very good. So Zach, we talked about a whole lot of different things here. Is there any, one big piece of advice that you want to share with dealers about their insurance coverage and things that they should be making sure that they're aware of, or making sure that they're protected against? And then just anything else about, what you guys are offering and what you guys do at Apiar.
I think that it's the mindset of the dealer when they're shopping for insurance or when they're shopping for their broker. It's no different than your CPA or your attorney. Look to your broker as your professional advisor that's going to help you, or your financial advisor. The same thing. And find somebody you can trust to go out into the marketplace and do the work. Yeah. That's really where to go, because if it's adversarial and there's multiple people in the market, and because the broker doesn't control what the premium is, the market controls that, right? So it's about having somebody you trust that has done the homework to make sure that they've put you in the right spot.
Right.
And typically, as a rule, about 1% of total revenue, 1 to 2% of total revenue is typically what a middle market company would spend on insurance. And there's lots of variables there too. Do you own your business? Where are you located in the U.S.? Would you own your building? And so, but as a general rule, that's kind of usually in Powersports, about 1% of total revenue would be your spend on insurance. Okay. And that includes workers' comp. It includes, so it's more than just your garage keepers, property, workers' comp, any kind of employment practice liability coverage. So there's that there. Also, I can't write every Powersport dealership in the U.S., right? Yeah. And there are experts that play in the dealership space. There are not as many people that are doing what I'm doing, but when people approach me, we can look at it from a couple of different angles, and we start consultative. I don't get paid until I sell a policy, but we can have conversations for years about, hey, take a look at this for me. How would you do this? I've reviewed, I'll go visit a 20 club and then have a dealer the next day say, hey, I just got this renewal proposal. Can you let me know what's going on? And I'll say, hey, why is this way? Why is that way? I want to be an advisor for the industry. So if it's just a matter of engaging and understanding, hey, you are in the right place, or hey, you may want to take a look at doing it this way. That's an option as well. So if you're asking what kind of services that we offer.
Yeah.
I was a dealer, so to be able to come back and be able to be an advisor for a dealer, I think is very valuable.
Right. Excellent. Now, I'm sure that they appreciate that stuff, because it's, on the surface, it seems, like you would understand what's going on, but I'm sure there's plenty of things, all these different moving parts that you really got to understand and wrap your head around before you make a big purchase like that. Yeah. All right. Well, Zach, I really do appreciate the time.
Absolutely.
Pleasure seeing you again, and thanks for coming down here to Akron to check us out here in the studio.
Yeah.
Guys, we appreciate all you watching at home. Thanks for watching this episode of Power Player. Please make sure you guys are checking out what Zach has going on at Apiar and everything he's doing there with risk management. And as always, make sure you're checking out Motorcycle and Power Sports News for more great motorcycle and power sports content. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.